The hidden lesson behind the smile. The evening sun dipped low over the city skyline, washing the streets in a golden hue that shimmered across glass windows and chrome car doors. The hum of the dinner crowd began to rise. Couples on first dates, families gathering after long weeks, and ambitious professionals looking to unwind. Among them was Daniel Carter, a man whose tailored suit, polished shoes, and gold wristwatch reflected not just light, but ego. Daniel had worked hard, or at least that's what he told himself. He believed success was something you could measure in the price of your meal, the brand of your pen, and how many heads turned when you entered a room. Tonight was one of those nights when he wanted the world to see just how far he'd come. He had just closed a deal that would make his company millions, and the taste of victory demanded something lavish, something to prove that he was above the ordinary. He stepped into the Garden Stone, one of the city's most elegant restaurants. The lobby smelled of jasmine and oak, soft music floated in the background, and the lighting was warm yet grand. Every detail whispered luxury. As Daniel handed his coat to the attendant, he noticed a waiter approaching. The man was in his early 40s, wearing a crisp white shirt and black vest. His posture was humble, his movements graceful but quiet, and his smile, though genuine, was met with Daniel's disinterest. To Daniel, the waiter was invisible. Just another face in a service uniform. The restaurant was busy, but Daniel demanded attention. He ordered the most expensive wine, the chef's special steak, and every item that signaled status. He didn't care about the flavor. He cared about what people saw. As the waiter took his order, Daniel's tone was sharp, his words clipped. When the man politely asked if he'd like his steak medium or well done, Daniel sneered. Just make sure it's not like your attitude, half done. A few guests turned their heads at the remark, but the waiter simply nodded with a soft, "Of course, sir," and walked away. There was no trace of irritation in his eyes, only calm understanding. That calmness, though, irritated Daniel more than anger ever could. He wanted to feel superior, and nothing annoyed him more than someone refusing to play along. The meal arrived, perfect in every way. But Daniel found fault in everything. The plate was too hot, the garnish too plain, the sauce too thick. Each complaint came with a sharp tone, each word another attempt to remind the waiter of his place. The man listened quietly, apologized gently, and continued serving with the same grace as before. Hours passed. As Daniel finished his dessert, he noticed the same waiter serving another table, a family of 4 laughing, talking, and clearly enjoying themselves. The waiter knelt beside the children, smiling as he placed their meals, even making them laugh with a small joke. The sight of it unsettled Daniel. How could someone stay so calm, so kind when faced with disrespect? When the bill arrived, Daniel tossed his credit card onto the table without even looking up. But when the waiter returned, he hesitated. "I'm sorry, sir," he said softly. "It seems your card didn't go through." Daniel frowned. "That's impossible." "Try again," the waiter did. The same result. Daniel's irritation grew into visible anger. "Do you have any idea who I am?" he said sharply, his voice loud enough for nearby tables to hear. "I could buy this place if I wanted to." The waiter didn't flinch. "I understand, sir. Sometimes the system just fails. We can try another card if you'd like." Daniel, flustered and embarrassed, pulled out another card. This time it worked. He signed the bill hastily, scribbling his name as though stabbing the paper itself. Before leaving, he threw a few bills onto the table, barely enough to cover a tip. "For your effort," he said coldly, turning to leave. But as he walked out, he noticed something. The waiter, still smiling, picked up the tip and quietly placed it in the small charity jar near the counter, a fund the restaurant ran for underprivileged students. Daniel paused for just a moment, confused, but his pride pushed the thought away. The next morning, Daniel received an email from his business partner reminding him of a special lunch meeting with a potential investor, someone whose involvement could take their company global. The meeting was to be held at none other than the Garden Stone. Daniel smirked. Perfect, he thought. At least the food will be decent. When he arrived, he was greeted by a young hostess who led him to a private dining area. The setting was exquisite. Floral arrangements, crystal glasses, and sunlight spilling through tall windows. Everything screamed success. Moments later, his partner entered, beaming with excitement. "Daniel," he said, "you're going to love this. The investor is actually the owner of this restaurant. He built it from the ground up. Incredible story, you'll be inspired. Daniel nodded absent-mindedly, scanning the room. Then from the far end of the restaurant, a familiar face approached. The same waiter from last night. The same gentle eyes, the same calm smile. Daniel's heart sank. The man walked up with the same quiet dignity, but this time, he wasn't carrying a tray. He was wearing a tailored suit, not flashy but elegant. His presence commanded the room in a way no raised voice ever could. Daniel's partner stood, shaking his hand with admiration. Daniel, meet Mr. Raj Malhotra, the founder and owner of the Garden Stone and one of the most respected investors in the city. In that moment, the sound around Daniel seemed to fade. The weight of last night's arrogance came crashing down on him like a wave. Every insult, every sneer, every moment of misplaced superiority echoed in his head. Raj, still wearing the same calm smile, extended his hand. "A pleasure to meet you," he said warmly. "I believe we've already met." Daniel's throat tightened. He wanted to disappear. He mumbled a greeting, his voice breaking under the pressure of his own shame. The lunch went on, but Daniel couldn't focus. Raj spoke about his journey, how he'd started as a dishwasher in his own restaurant after migrating to the city with nothing, how he'd saved every dollar, learned the craft, and built the business from scratch. He shared how humility and respect had guided him more than ambition ever could. Daniel sat there silent. Every word felt like a mirror reflecting the worst parts of himself. After the meeting, Raj stood up and offered one final handshake. "It was good speaking with you," he said. "Remember, success is best measured by how you treat those who serve you when you have nothing to gain." And with that, he left. Daniel remained seated long after everyone else had gone. The city outside continued to hum, indifferent to his internal storm. He replayed every moment from the night before, the cruel remarks, the mocking tone, the smug pride, and realized how small they made him. That night, Daniel returned to the Garden Stone, not for a meal, but to find the waiter who had served him, only to learn that there were none by that description. The staff smiled knowingly and said, "Mr. Malhotra likes to serve guests himself sometimes. It reminds him where he came from." Daniel stood there in silence, the weight of the revelation pressing down on him. For the first time in years, he felt something deeper than embarrassment. He felt humbled. He asked for a seat in the quiet corner of the restaurant and ordered a simple meal, the same one he had ridiculed before. When it arrived, he didn't see just food on a plate. He saw effort, dignity, and the quiet pride of someone who had built a life through grace, not arrogance. As he ate, he noticed the charity jar again by the counter, the same one the owner had placed his tip in. Without thinking, Daniel reached into his wallet and slipped in an envelope with a generous donation. He didn't write his name. He didn't tell anyone. For once, he didn't need recognition. When he stepped outside that night, the air felt lighter. The world didn't seem like a stage for showing off anymore. It felt like a place to learn, to connect, to grow. And as Daniel walked away from the Garden Stone, he realized something he had never understood before. True success wasn't about what you earned. It was about what you learned. He had entered that restaurant as a man blinded by pride. He left as someone who had finally seen. And somewhere inside, he silently thanked the man who had taught him that the greatest strength lies not in power, but in grace. The next chapter would begin with Daniel's quiet transformation, a journey not of wealth, but of wisdom, as he tried to live up to the lesson he had once so carelessly ignored.